Greetings. So today I'm joined by two of my colleagues, Dr. Colville and Dr. Restifo, and we wanted to touch on something that's a common complication of breast implant reconstruction or just cosmetic augmentations. And the idea is capsular contracture, particularly recurrent capsular contracture, and whether or not this is your body telling you that you're rejecting something. And tell me a little bit more about how you handle capsular contractures. What say you?
Well, for capsular contractures, a lot of times I think we do know some of the sources. It's probably more than one issue. Early hematoma, somebody could have bleeding after surgery and then not have the area adequately treated or washed out and get a new implant. Another could be some low-grade infection, or say somebody runs a high drain output after reconstruction and they have a drain in and then they have contracture. Usually these are bacterially oriented or based, but not always. It could be just bleeding. Sometimes you can just treat it by excising the area. They usually don't show up really quick, but if they show up in less than a year, in my opinion, those are a little more aggressive than if they showed up at 2 years or 5 years.
You know, if somebody's had a capsular contracture before, does that make them more prone to further capsular contractures? Is there a genetic component of this, do you think?
Probably. I mean, I don't know if there's a genetic component, but there are definitely people that seem to be capsule formers. However, that being said, once a capsule is instigated, whether it's by an infection or a hematoma, once it's there, if you don't completely eradicate that capsule, it's pretty predictable that if you put in a new implant, do a capsulotomy, you're going to get another capsule again because you haven't fixed what initially was the problem, the stimulus to the capsule. So I don't think necessarily people are doomed to forever form capsules. Some of them are, but not all of them.
So I'd agree, but that was a big word you just threw out there. So capsulotomy, that means they're taking out the implant, they're cutting the capsule or the tightness, and that's it, and they're putting the implant back in. So just to clarify that, so I think most people, and you included, all of us included, would say that we should remove the capsule when it's a problem. If it's a chronic problem or they've had 2 or 3, then we'd go on to other things, maybe inserting a material in there to try to break the flow or the stem or the recurrence. If it's a single capsular occurrence, I don't know that it's necessarily going to need any more than removal.
Do you think there's a subset of patients that don't do well with implants, that maybe are rejecting them? You know, this comes into that conversation about breast implant illness that is very hot right now.
Well, it's not a rejection in terms of immunological, like rejecting your kidney. It's just a simple foreign body reaction, and the strength of the foreign body reaction depends upon the degree of the stimulus. Any foreign body will elicit the reaction, but if you throw in inflammation from a hematoma or an infection, it's going to be that much worse. But it's not a rejection, and unfortunately we don't have a way of knowing which people will have a propensity towards encapsulation. But I think with really good surgical technique, you know, a no-touch super sterile technique, avoidance of hematoma, you know, fortunately capsular contracture is pretty rare.
Excellent. All right. For more information, go to theplasticsurgerychannel.com.